Hello everyone, welcome to the Testing Trainer YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss test design techniques. So it's a very important chapter in testing. So what are all the we in each and every field, like in production and in manufacturing, or you take any fields in the world, there are some techniques available. Okay, the technical engineering jobs are not easy to do, right? So you always need a technique to perform it effectively, right? Similarly, like we have same kind of techniques in testing. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about those test design techniques. So the technique itself, there are different techniques in each and every phase. If you remember the software testing life cycle, so in the requirement phase, there are some techniques to analyze the requirement. In test analysis, you have some techniques, and then in test design, you can use some techniques. So in that phase, in that software testing life cycle, so now we are in the test design techniques. Before we start the test design technique, I hope overall viewing the video would have watched my previous session on test design phase. Okay, so but as this is very important, I would like to go back to that, just do a short summary of that, and then come back to the test design technique. Okay, so I'm just traversing back. Okay, here you go. Test design phase. So in this phase, this is one of the phases in software testing lifecycle. In this phase, we create a detailed plan or strategy of how software will be tested to ensure quality and functionality. We already discussed this. This is in this phase mainly we design the test cases or test scenarios or checklists to start the execution. So did you remember I was talking about how to prepare a coffee in a coffee machine? So how will you plan to test the coffee machine? If you are about to test the coffee machine, whether the coffee machine is giving back the coffee or not, then we need to come up with some steps. So step one, prepare the coffee maker. Step two, brewing process. Step three, brew the coffee. Step four, serve the coffee, like that. Similarly, like if I'm about to test a coffee machine, I need to have these kind of steps to actually test it. Same for the software testing. In order to test this login screen, we will be having the functional requirements, right? The user should be able to see the username and password text box like this and all those, and login button should be available and user should be able to select it. So with this requirement, we were writing test cases, right? So the process of writing a test cases or test scenarios using the functional requirements, okay, that is called test design. Okay, so this activity will be performed, or I can say that this activity will be performed in test design phase. Now, so I'll quickly go through this. So with this username and password, eh, like the main requirement is I need to enter the username and password. If it's valid, then I should be able to log in. If it is not valid, then I should not be able to log in. So that's what it says. With this, we prepared the test cases, right? Go to login page, enter the username, leave the password empty. You should not be able to log in. If I enter the valid username and password, I should be able to log in. Okay. So who all watched this session previously, it will be like a recall for you. So I hope you all now got it, what we discussed and all those things. Now let's go back to the techniques. So now what are we going to learn is, we are going to learn how to design this test with some techniques. See, this is very straightforward. Username and password, you're going to enter the username, password, click login, then you will be easily able to log in. So this is a very simple requirement in software development. Okay, but in general, in the real time, the requirement will not be like that. Okay, it will be complex and complicated. So let's see how to write the test cases using the techniques. So we know that there are two kinds of testing: black box and white box testing, right? So black box is about it's all about black box. You don't know what is happening inside the system, so that's why we're calling as black box. We only know the inputs and outputs. And white box is all we know what is there in the system, so we actually test the code whether the code is working correctly or not as expected. Right, now coming to the actual topic, test design technique. So the techniques which we are going to learn is the reason I just quickly recall the black box testing is, so we are going to learn about black box test techniques. Okay, so that means we are not going to discuss anything about coding, how to test the code. Okay, so a few of you might have thought that okay, they is talking about techniques, so he might be coming up with some complex code or anything. No, no, it is not about that. It is also simple, easy to learn. It has nothing to do with the coding. It's a black box test. Okay, so as a black box testing, so we have, there are several techniques available. Okay, but I would like to cover four major techniques which are widely used. Okay, so first one is equivalence partitioning, and second is boundary value analysis, and third is state transition testing and decision table based testing. Okay, now in this session we are going to see how equivalence partitioning technique works. Okay, now so with this, with this a name and everything, it may look complicated, but it is very simple. Okay, equivalence partitioning is a black box test design technique used to divide the input space of a software system into equivalent classes. Okay, the goal is to reduce the number of test cases required to thoroughly test the system while still ensuring adequate coverage of different input scenarios. Now assume you become a tester. Whoever watching, if you are not a tester, you become a tester. Okay, and if you are already a tester, then think about it, you become a very senior tester or something. We were into a complex test system. Now we, the problems which a tester will face is coverage. What is test coverage? That's a different topic, but I'll give a simple overview. Test coverage is nothing but how many scenarios have you covered the system. For example, in order to, there is a text box where I need to enter 10 characters. It supports only 10 characters. Okay, that means it can support one character, two character, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can actually try with different possible permutation and combination. You can derive from that as 15, 20 test cases. Okay, you just can first simply enter only one character and try to save, and then you enter two character, try to save, three character, try to save. Okay, think about address. So we'll be entering some 10 characters at least, right? So so now if for that simple address field, if you are going to write 15 or 20 test cases, the time taking to write the test cases, the time taken to execute the test cases will be very high. Okay, in order to avoid those issues, okay, now we should also need to reduce the number of test cases required. At the same time, we should also cover as much scenarios as possible to make sure that functionality doesn't have any defects. Okay, so it's actually a two different area, but there is a very thin line. Okay, you should be standing in the line. You should make sure uh, both conditions are nicely satisfied. So I need to, the ultimate goal is to reduce the number of test cases required to thoroughly test the system. So you need to, instead of 20 test cases, you need to try 5 test cases and make sure it's all working fine. Now the question will come, which 5 test cases should I pick? Because it accepts 1 to 10 characters. I can enter some spaces, special characters, or and then 5 characters one attempt. In second attempt, I can enter 20 characters. So several test cases. So I need to reduce that, right? In order to reduce that, we have techniques. So now in equivalence partitioning, they are saying divide the input space into equivalent classes based on this input conditions. Any equivalence class is a set of input values that should produce the same output or behavior from the system. So they're saying you divide the requirement into three different, or like not three, you divide it into set of classes. Okay, and then pick one or two from that class and you can start writing the test cases. I know it will be a little bit tricky. I'll explain. Now I have to enter address in the customer details form. Okay. Now take any form. You have to send the courier. You will be entering the address. You are ordering a product in Amazon or eBay. So you need to enter the address. So wherever you use the e-commerce, there are many scenarios will be entering the address, right? Now think that, and that address field is capable. It's a free text field. So the free text field is capable of having 19 characters maximum. Okay, it can. So with that 19, so usually it should have 8 characters at least. So to have a street name or number. Think about it. It's just an example scenario. It won't be sometimes, but it's an example. Minimum it should have 8, and maximum it have 719. So I can text between 8 to 19, right? Now I split that into three classes. Invalid class. So 0 to 8 is invalid. Valid is 9 to 18. So if it can accept up to 9 to 18. If I'm entering 19 or higher, then it should not accept it. So now you can realistically you can take one test cases from here, second test case from here, third test case. First test will say that I can enter the character up to 7, and I should be that should be an invalid test, and I should be able to enter the 12 characters and that should be for valid test, and I can enter 20 characters that should for invalid case. That maybe may get an error or something. Okay, now what did we achieve by doing this? You may ask a question, Jay, what are you doing? What is the advantage out of it? The advantage is, see this one, reduce the number of test cases. Instead of having 20-25 test cases, we reduced into 3 test cases. At the same time, we are ensuring the adequate coverage for different input scenarios. So I have a coverage for negative scenario less than 18. I have an coverage of scenario greater than 19. I have a scenario of valid case as well. I can have 2 tests or 1 test in this case. So I can make sure the enough areas are covered in testing. Now let's take this. So this is what we were talking about. So I've come up with some test cases using with that boundary value analysis. Now I'm adding an item into cart, fill address detail, add message into the birthday wishes. Here I'm saying as a birthday wishes area. There I was saying about address field, right? But I can just yeah, you can consider that as an birthday wishes area. That makes very realistic assumptions, right? Rather than being address, because address may have more. So think about it. Buying a gift for my your friend or anyone. You have to enter some messages, say happy birthday, enjoy your day, like that. So that is the area. So that suppose A2. So the requirement says, I just mark the requirement here. Requirement says it accepts 8 to 18 characters. So if you enter 19, that is out. If you enter 7, it out. So it says it accept up to I think 19, 18 characters, 9 to 18 characters. So see clearly 9 to 9 to 18. Now I divide this into 0 to 8, 9 to 18, 9 to 18, 19 to x or some n. So I divide this into 3 different classes. That's what this is talking about, 0 to 8. 0 to 8. When the requirement was 9 to 18, I split it into 0 to 8. 9 to 18 of valid class and 19 higher invalid class. We are saying valid class because when it's an invalid, basically it's an invalid test. It's a valid scenario. What is valid? Except 9 to 18 is valid. So when you enter 12 characters of 13, it's going to accept, right? And it becomes invalid. So with this, you derive test cases. Now I'm going to write this. Take 0 to 8. Add item into cart, fill the address detail. Add message into behavior area. Add 7 character message into birthday. I picked up from here. I picked up the number 7 and I entered the number 7. So I enter the number 7 here. So add 7 character message in beneficiary area. Click OK and verify. If I click OK, and it will throw error saying no minimum 8 characters. Sorry, minimum 8 characters required. Because the requirement says it should accept 9 to 18 characters. It should accept 9 to 18 characters. Now, this is a, like we can say this as a invalid case. Now I'm taking the valid case 9 to 18. So I'm going to add the measures. I'm going to add 15 character. Add 15 character message into. So I picked 15 from this one. Okay, so I'm 15 character. This should be able to proceed. So it will be a valid scenario. Now again from this I'm taking 22. So add 22 character message into the precious area. It should not, or I can say an error like maximum characters should be 18 or something like that. Similar error will be getting because maximum it accepts maximum characters should be 18. Okay, so now this is an invalid test. Now you kind of understood what I'm trying to say, right? Now let's get into a more little bit detail, but then you will get everything easily. Okay. Now see, let's start with requirement. There is a requirement. Okay, requirement says birthday message box, or yes, I'm saying birthday message box, but think about any message box in any software. Okay, you have any text area in the software. Okay, so and then the area should accept 9 to 18 characters. I cannot test each and every character like 8, 9, 10, 11. There will be like 12, 15 test cases I need to write. Okay, so I cannot write 15, 20 test cases for this simple requirement. I need to reduce it. So what I've done, step one, I analyze the requirement. Step 2, I come up with the analysis. Step 1, I've read the requirement, come up with an analysis. So this is what I'm referring as analysis. Okay, I'll put it as a table. I've analyzed the requirement and come up with the this equivalent classes, or you can put it use the technique EQA, equivalence partitioning. Now use the technique. With this technique I have 3 test cases. Test case number 1, test case number 2, test case number 3. Okay, now I have 3 test scenarios. Okay, the final step will be 4, write down the test. That's it, guys. Okay, I have a requirement 9 to 18. Now I cannot test for 22 tests, or I cannot test with 20 or 15 test cases. I cannot write and test it. It's not possible, and it's time consuming. But at the same time I also need to do good coverage. I need to test as much as possible. So what I'm come up with, I'm using the technique called equivalence partitioning, where I'm partitioning the requirement into three classes: invalid, valid, and invalid. So what is lesser than this? I'm putting into an invalid class, and what is the valid thing into valid class and invalid into invalid class. And then I'm just taking one out from this, I'm taking one from this, one from this. So I have 7, 15, 12. So the use the technique, I have three test scenarios, just 7, 15, and 12. With the 7, 15, and 12, I write the test like this. That's it, guys. So with the requirement, you apply the technique here, and then you just get with the scenarios, valid, invalid, and valid scenarios, and then you write down the test. Okay, that's it. This is called applying a technique in testing. You have this is equivalence partitioning technique. Is this is the technique you are for the requirement you're using it. But I hope the session make you to understand what is equivalence partitioning. But the thing is, equivalent whatever I'm saying in this session, it's all a very simple scenarios because I don't want to think that this is a complicated one. Okay, because if I take a complicated or a very complex scenario, so it'll be very tricky to learn as a beginner or even as an intermediate or advanced any stage you are in testing. It will be good to keep the foundation and fundamentals strong. So if you take with a complex scenario, it will be difficult to learn. So if you take a simple scenario, it will be easy to learn. So my ultimate goal is to make you guys learn easily. So that's the reason we are coming up with the simple scenarios, simple bound equivalence partitioning technique, and writing the test. Yeah. So I hope the session is very useful, and let's see the next technique in next session. Thank you.